Night had not yet yielded to the first glimmer of dawn when Skylar awoke with a sense of vague but inevitable unease. She lay in her bed, wrapped in a soft gray throw, listening as the house quietly whispered its ancient secrets. The creak of the floorboards, the distant echo of raindrops tapping against old windows, and the barely perceptible rustle of the wind seeping through cracks in the walls. All of this seemed like an omen of something unavoidable that was about to shatter the accustomed calm of her world. Skylar slowly sat on the edge of the bed, feeling her heart begin to beat faster, as if trying to warn her of imminent changes. Unresolved questions swirled in her mind like the echo of a distant dream. Why is everything so strange? Why does the world around seem so fleeting and fragile? These thoughts mingled with the sensation that every sound, from the quiet rustling of the curtains to the barely audible knock of old furniture, penetrated straight into the depths of her soul. She approached the window, and in the cold morning light, she saw how the flickering lights of street lamps were reflected on the damp asphalt, creating the illusion of dancing shadows. Clouds, enveloped in a light mist, slowly drifted across the sky as if heralding the beginning of something new and unpredictable. Every minute detail seemed electrified. The coolness of the morning air, quietly seeping into the room, awakened in her a feeling of loneliness and, at the same time, the enticing call of the unknown. Skylar's inner voice grew ever more insistent. It whispered that these quiet, almost imperceptible sounds were not mere random noises of the night, but a signal that something in her life was about to change. Every beat of her heart resonated in unison with this premonition, making her doubt the stability of the familiar world. Fear and curiosity intertwined in her thoughts like two sides of the same coin, leaving her with just one question. Was she ready to accept the inevitable? Standing at the window, Skylar felt how the world beyond her room was slowly, almost imperceptibly, entering a new phase. The silence of the night, filled with barely discernible sounds, seemed like an invitation to take a step into the unknown. And at that moment, when the chill of the morning breeze touched her cheek, she felt an internal whirl of tension and anticipation of change. It was a premonition that could not be ignored, quiet yet insistent, like a whisper of fate that was already beginning to transform her inner world. Skylar closed her eyes, trying to soothe the anxiety, but her thoughts only flared up like a flame that no force could extinguish. In every sigh, in every echo of the night's sounds, she caught not only the herald of impending changes, but also the quiet call to something new, unexplored. She understood that this day would be pivotal, that ahead of her awaited an encounter with the deepest truths hidden behind the familiar mask of everyday life. Thus, standing on the threshold of a new morning, Skylar felt a determination welling up within her. She did not yet know what trials fate had prepared for her, but one thing was clear. This day would not be ordinary, and its preordained unease would become the first chord in the symphony of change capable of transforming everything. In the morning, still shrouded in the remnants of sleep and anxiety, Skylar heard from afar strange, rhythmic sounds that disrupted the fragile silence of the house. She involuntarily tensed. In each note, in every rustle, there was something forbidden, as if fate itself had decided to play a cruel joke with her heart. Clenching her fists and holding her breath, she left the room, guided by the unyielding feeling that something was amiss. Down the corridor, where the old floorboards creaked under her hesitant steps, every sound became a harbinger of the storm to come. Her breathing grew faster, and her nerves literally pulsed in unison with the echo of her steps reverberating off the cold walls. Skylar felt her body, gripped by premonition, freeze in anticipation of what she was about to see. Drawing near the door from which the sounds, reminiscent of echoes of passion, emanated, she slowly turned the knob. And there, before her eyes, unfolded a scene that made the blood in her veins freeze. In the dim light of the room, where the soft morning glow battled with shadows, her boyfriend Brandon and Riley, the friend she trusted, were immersed in a storm of passion. Their movements, precise and almost hypnotic, resembled a dance in which every touch, every sigh merged into one whole, leaving Skylar in a state of shock. Her gaze caught every minute detail, how Brandon, as if absorbed by an inner force, continued his movements unhurriedly, oblivious to Skylar's presence, and how Riley, as if in a trance, reciprocated without spending a second to realize what was happening. Each second seemed an eternity, and simultaneously a moment when time ceased to have meaning. The sounds, reminiscent of a trembling heartbeat, mingled with the soft rustle of clothing, creating a whirling medley of sensations that sent shivers of unexpected pain through Skylar's body. In that moment, her entire consciousness was overwhelmed by a storm of emotions: anger, pain, disbelief, and a strange, barely perceptible arousal. Her mind struggled to comprehend how such a thing could happen, how those she trusted could so easily dissolve into the embrace of passion without noticing her presence. Every cell in her body screamed of betrayal, yet somewhere deep inside, something else stirred, quiet and insistent, forcing her to reconsider the conventional notions of love and intimacy. Skylar remained motionless in the doorway, as if spellbound. Her inner voice silently demanded explanations, but words stuck at the boundary between shock and unbearable curiosity. She felt her breathing become shallow, and every sound, like a sharp blow, pierced straight into her heart. From that moment, her life was changed forever. What had seemed safe and familiar collapsed into chaos, where emotions mingled in an indescribable spectrum, evoking both destructive pain and a strange attraction to the forbidden. Without taking a single step back, Skylar realized that the path she had stepped into that room could no longer be altered. Her gaze froze, and a flame ignited within her soul, and fire that would illuminate the dark corners of her being for a long time, making her ask herself, how does one go on living after such betrayal? And it was precisely in that instant, between the sounds of passion and the silence of betrayal, that something new was born, a seed of doubt that promised to turn into a storm of change in her life. After the shocking discovery of betrayal, Skylar's soul teetered on the brink of collapse. She found herself trapped between waves of anger and unbearable pain, and at the same time, between that strange, forbidden curiosity that slowly seeped into her consciousness. Days and nights merged into one endless series of thoughts, where every minute turned into an internal battle. At first, chaos reigned in her mind. Every memory of the moment she caught Brandon and Riley evoked a storm of emotions. On one hand, the feeling of betrayal, like an icy rain, pierced her to the bone. On the other, deep within her soul, something incomprehensible, almost seductive, began to take shape, a quiet voice urging her to understand what was happening inside her. She asked herself, how could this have happened? What caused love and trust to turn into a sharp wound, and pain into something one could not escape? In the endless hours of solitude, Skylar began to analyze every little detail. Thoughts swirled in her head about how everything once seemed clear and simple, and now every touch, every movement evoked conflicting sensations. The feeling of hurt and loss mingled with curiosity, as if two opposing forces were battling for control of her soul. She could not understand why. Deep in her heart, something more than mere pain was being born. It was precisely in those moments, when tears were barely held back, that she felt a fiery spark awaken inside, a promise of unexplored sensations and new facets of passion. In the darkness of the night, when her thoughts became particularly obsessive, Skylar increasingly turned inward. Her inner monologue turned into a labyrinth where she sought answers to questions that seemed both terrifying and alluring. She recalled all those moments when, before the betrayal, she believed she had found in Brandon the reflection of her soul, and now that image had shattered into tiny fragments reflecting deceit and lies. Yet even among those shards, glimmers of what once was genuine intimacy shone through, beckoning her with the promise of something new, unknown, and forbidden. Every morning became a trial for her. In the mirror, she tried to discern both the person she once was and the one who was now slowly but inexorably transforming. Her eyes reflected not only pain but also that very spark she could not explain, the desire to plunge into the abyss of her feelings, to explore the forbidden corners of her soul where secret passions are born. She agonized over how one could love as passionately as before, while simultaneously feeling a pain so unbearable it could shatter everything inside. At times, Skylar felt her body reacting to these inner torments. Goosebumps on her skin, a racing heartbeat, a slight warmth beginning to pulse in the places that had once been ruled by cold emptiness. These physical responses seemed to her like a sign, a message from the very nature of her being, that the more she resisted, the stronger the desire to experience something new, even if it were forbidden, was reborn. It broke through the layers of hurt and loss, reminding her that life is multifaceted and that even in the most painful moments, something beautiful can be born. In the silence of a lonely night, lying on the cold floor of her empty room, Skylar delved into the depths of memories and feelings. Her mind oscillated between recollections of dreaming about tenderness and closeness, and the realization that even betrayal could become a catalyst for seeking something new within herself. It was like a quiet but inevitable awakening, when pain gave way to curiosity and fear yielded to a faint hope. Her soul, torn between the past and the future, began to receive conflicting signals. The fear that the destruction of her familiar world would ultimately engulf her clashed with the thirst to know what lay beyond the loss. And in this struggle, a nascent idea was born. Perhaps pain is not only the end of something, but also the beginning of a new, unexplored chapter, where something unexpected blooms in place of old certainties. Skylar understood that a long journey of self-analysis and acceptance lay ahead. She began to record her thoughts in a diary, trying to capture every drop of emotion, every minute sensation that enveloped her. The words on the pages became a reflection of her inner universe, where fear and desire intertwined in a complex dance, leaving scars yet also hints of the possibility of healing. Thus, immersed in the labyrinth of her own feelings, Skylar felt a new fire slowly ignite within her. It was a fire that did not diminish under the onslaught of pain but, on the contrary, was fueled by those dark, forbidden desires that she had never even dared to imagine. And although this fire could burn, it also promised to illuminate the path to the depths of her soul, where the possibility of becoming stronger, of understanding who she truly was, and perhaps finding a new form of love, even if it was as unpredictable as life itself, began to emerge. Skylar lay on her bed, eyes closed, her mind wrestling between two extremes. In this endless internal struggle, a spark was born, a gentle, almost imperceptible desire to explore these boundaries, to understand how one could love so passionately despite the pain, how to let that forbidden feeling into one's heart that could change everything. This spark promised her a new life, a life in which every emotion, every flutter of the heart would be a testament to her inner strength and her determination to move forward, no matter what. Thus began her inner revolution, a moment when pain and betrayal yielded to a burgeoning desire, and every drop of tears, every sigh became a step toward a new understanding of herself. It was a struggle where the dark facets of her soul not only did not fade away, but became guiding lights on the path to freedom and self-discovery. The night, imbued with a somber tenderness, seemed the perfect cover for the forbidden to begin infiltrating Skylar's soul. In the depths of her inner turmoil, where pain and resentment still battled for supremacy, suddenly a quiet flame of temptation flared up, mesmerizing and inevitable. Under the starry dome, where every shadow seemed alive, she felt her nerves fill with a new, almost imperceptible yet enticing rhythm. At first, she remained on the sidelines, watching as Brandon and Riley, like two harmonious instruments, played a delicate, intimate melody. Their movements were fluid, almost hypnotic, each touch, each glance, as if set to music, leading to a climax where physical desire began to overshadow logic. In their quiet gestures, Skylar heard a call for change, an invitation to break the old boundaries that had held her captive in pain for so long. But in Skylar's heart, not only the feeling of betrayal was growing. Along with it, something new, mysterious, almost forbidden desire was awakening. Succumbing to that quiet, beckoning impulse, she made a decisive step. The seal of silent pain was lifted from her lips, and a look of bashful, yet sincere consent to enter this dangerous dance flashed across her face. Unwittingly, as if guided by an unseen force, she drew near, allowing her hands, trembling with excitement, to feel the warmth of a presence that had long remained foreign to her. In that moment, when her hand gently touched Brandon's hand, time seemed to stop. His gaze met hers, and in it one could read not only support, but also a quiet understanding. A silent agreement that now, with the old ties broken, it was time to open a new chapter. Riley, with a gentle smile, seemed to invite Skylar to dissolve into this sensual surge, where every second was filled with the promise of forgetting pain and encountering unknown pleasure. Under the cover of night, logic yielded to primitive desire, and Skylar felt her inner barriers beginning to crumble. Every touch, every tender sigh emanating from Brandon and Riley became for her something more than a mere physical act. They were signals that the forbidden could be both pain and healing pleasure simultaneously. In this turmoil, where the past and the present merged in a whirlwind of emotions, she realized that right now, on this thin line between loss and passion, she was given a chance to explore the unexplored depths of her own soul. With every new movement, the atmosphere grew denser, imbued with the rhythms of tenderness and the soft, almost elusive sounds of bodies. She felt her heart, once gripped by pain, begin to beat in unison with a new sensual pulse, inviting her to step beyond the familiar. Skylar allowed herself to dissolve into that dance, a dance where logic gave way to primal desire, and fear receded before the power of inner awakening. And so, under the shimmering light of the night, when every sigh became a revelation and every touch a confession of newfound freedom, Skylar made her choice. The choice to step beyond pain, to allow herself to experience what she had once rejected, and perhaps to find in that forbidden pleasure the key to restoring the lost part of herself. Thus began her transition, a transition where boundaries blurred and emotions, so contradictory and tender, merged into a single whole, promising not only the destruction of the old world, but also the birth of a new one filled with mysteries and endless sensuality. The room plunged into semi-darkness, with only the flickering glow of candles casting soft shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere of intimate enigma. Here, in this secluded space, three destinies merged into a single stream of sensuality, where every touch became a revelation and every breath a confession of unbridled passion. Brandon, confident and attentive, moved slowly like a conductor setting the rhythm of this passionate symphony. His hands, exploring every curve and contour of Skylar, left trembling traces on her skin, evoking memories of long-forgotten pleasures. The lightness of his touches contrasted with the intensity of emotions, awakening in Skylar the feeling that every caress could erase the pain of the past and reveal a new facet of her being. Riley, possessing an incomparable sensuality, drew near like the gentle whisper of the wind, imparting a sense of refined seduction. Her soft hands glided over Skylar's skin, leaving behind warm trails that, like tiny flames, ignited the heroine's inner world. With each of her movements, the boundaries between bodies disappeared, and the trio became a single entity, where physical closeness intertwined with deep emotional connection. In this intimate union, time lost its meaning. The sounds, rhythmically matching the beating of their hearts, created the sensation that each moment was an infinite universe of sensations. Brandon and Riley, with their uniquely sensitive movements, seemed to communicate without words, conveying to each other their secret desires and profound tenderness. Surrendering to this magical dance, Skylar felt her soul and body fill with a new meaning, capable of healing even the deepest wounds. Every touch, every quiet sigh, every tender kiss became a symbol of liberation. Their bodies moved in unison, smoothly and assuredly, creating a rhythm in which desire, loss, and hope merged. They allowed themselves to forget about betrayal and pain, dissolving into a sweet harmony where passion served as a bridge between the past and the future. In that moment, they were not merely three individuals, but a single entity, seeking answers to questions that had once seemed unresolvable. The fusion was so profound that every cell of their being responded to the call of closeness. Brandon continued to embrace Skylar tenderly, his movements both confident and gentle, conveying to her the warmth she so desperately sought. Riley, keenly attuned to every emotion, left invisible marks on her skin, as if confirming that every second of that night was a step toward a new understanding of herself. Under the cover of the flickering light, when the world around vanished, leaving only the sounds of bodies and the soft echo of mutual breathing, they together reached the moment of absolute satiation of their passions. Here, in that trembling vortex of emotions, the past and pain gave way to a primordial joy and tenderness, and every touch became a testament that even after the deepest losses, something beautiful and true could be born. When their bodies finally found their rhythm, all three souls merged into a single stream of pleasure. Every movement, every sigh became an act of liberation, liberation from fears, resentments, and betrayal. That night left no room for contemplation. There was only the moment, where passion, trust, and mutual acceptance wrought a miracle, leaving behind the promise of a new life filled with freedom and sincere closeness. At the threshold of a new day, as the first timid rays of dawn began to penetrate through thin curtains, the nocturnal whirlwind of passion gave way to a quiet, almost painful realization. In that fragile silence, imbued with the pre-dawn chill, Skylar sat on the edge of the bed, as if awaiting a decision she had not yet been able to make. The memories of the night when her soul had been torn between pain and the forbidden slowly settled, leaving behind scars that could not be erased. Every touch, every sigh still echoed in her consciousness like frozen music playing against the backdrop of a new, still unclear morning. Her inner voice, once full of tumultuous emotions, now sounded quieter, as if trying to gather itself and understand. Was it redemption or just another loss? Skylar watched the gentle flicker of lights on the street, where the awakening city offered her the possibility of a new life. Yet, at the same time, before her eyes unfolded the picture of inner duality. On one hand, there was the feeling of loss and betrayal, as if a stain forever remained on her heart. On the other, a strange, almost mystical satisfaction from what she had experienced, which offered a chance to reimagine herself. Her thoughts wandered between memories of how easily passion could turn into unexpected solace and questions of whether she would find the strength to forgive not only others, but herself as well. Every moment spent in the silence of the night turned into a quiet conversation with herself. Perhaps betrayal is not an end, but the beginning of something new? Can I accept pain as part of my path to healing? These reflections sounded like quiet whispers, echoed in the soft morning light. In the corner of the room stood an old writing desk, upon which lay her diary, a witness to the multitude of recorded thoughts and feelings. Skylar opened it, trying to find answers among the lines written in moments of deep pain and mad desire. Every page spoke of how thin the line is between love and passion, between betrayal and forgiveness, and how difficult it is to determine where one world ends and another begins. In that moment, with her heart skipping a beat, she realized, dawn brings not only the end of the night, but the beginning of a new stage. Perhaps everything that had happened had left an indelible mark, but at the same time, it opened before her the possibility to reimagine her life. In her soul, where darkness had reigned until recently, a spark of hope slowly kindled, promising that even through pain one could find a path to renewal. Thus, in the silence of the pre-dawn hour, Skylar remained alone with herself, surrounded by the echoes of the past and the premonition of the future. Her gaze was fixed on the half-dark window, behind which the city was awakening, while her heart, torn between memories and dreams, asked the eternal question, can pain become the seed of a new life if given a chance to grow? There was no answer, and in that uncertainty lay the very essence of her new path, a path where every step, every feeling was both a challenge and an invitation to change.